Hi there. Well, it's my privilege just to very briefly introduce this presentation on behalf of the Scottish Dementia Working Group's research subgroup. As I said, my name's Nick. I'm a researcher at Edinburgh University, and I'm also very fortunate to be a co-opted member of the research subgroup. So if it's okay, I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes briefly introducing the subgroup before handing over to my colleague Henry Rankin to introduce the principles. But I just wanted to say a little bit. If I could just spend a couple of minutes just giving you a brief introduction to the research subgroup. As Helga said, it was established in 2013, largely, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Henry, but as a response to the very increasing number of applications for assistance or to participate in research projects from a wide variety of researchers from across the UK. And so the subgroup was formed from the Scottish Dementia Working Group, core members of that group coming together with assistance from 4 co-opted researchers. And so the aim, in a nutshell, of the research subgroup is to act as a gatekeeper to a lot of the requests for research collaboration. And also as a format for influencing the research agenda. So with that in mind, one of the first activities of the group, or of the subgroup, was to develop a set of core principles, a set of statements that various members within the group can agree on and get behind as core principles for doing good research in dementia. And that process, basically throughout 2013, we worked together as researchers, as people living with a diagnosis, to talk about our shared experiences of when research has been done well, when research has not been done well, what have we learned from that, and using a process called a Delphi process, we arrived at a set of principles which all members of the subgroup could get behind and say, yes, you know, we agree with those principles. So without any further chat from me, I'd like to hand you over to Henry to talk through the core principles and what they mean.
Thank you very much, Nick. Could I just say regarding donating brains, I'm pretty sure my wife would be happy if I could donate the brain, but first of all, you would have to find one. The first core principle is about people with dementia being involved, valued, and informed. This principle means the researchers should ask people with dementia how they want to be involved in research, including at what points and in what ways they want to be updated. Different people will have different views on this. We want researchers to come back and tell us the outcome of the research that we have been involved in. Please be honest and don't bury bad findings. For many of us, keeping us involved means keeping our families or a trusted person who we nominated involved and informed too. In order for research to make a full impact, professionals and others in our communities need to be involved and informed about the outcomes of research in ways which reflect their involvement in our lives. The second core principle is about how knowledge is constructed in dementia research. This principle means that it is important that the researchers use the views and experiences of people with dementia as knowledge. The process of setting research agendas should happen in a mutual relationship between people with dementia and researchers. This should include people with dementia being involved in setting research priorities. For example, researchers asking people with dementia what a positive outcome will look like for them. Researchers should create opportunities for us to develop our research skills so that we can be involved in influencing knowledge about dementia. When considering all of the above, researchers should consider creative methods and new ways for creating new knowledge in partnership with people with dementia. The third core principle is about physical and emotional safety. This principle means that researchers should find out each time we meet how we are and what support we need that day, including if things were to go wrong. This includes making sure that we are emotionally well and get home from meetings safely. Also find out if there is someone else we would like to have with us when we are taking part in research. People with dementia taking part in research should always be offered counselling or emotional support. Find out where our safe zones are, both physically and emotionally, and meet us there. Be aware that research has the potential to take people from dementia outside of their safe zones and be ready to respond. Researchers should be aware of their own safe zones and know where to go, not to go, physically and emotionally. The fourth principle is about how important it is for all aspects of research to be accessible to people with dementia. This principle means that it is important that researchers speak to in layman's language. Please keep it simple. Researchers should explain terms each time they use them. Don't use abbreviations or acronyms. People with dementia should always receive a summary of the final report in simple, understandable language. All documents about research, for example, proposals, information sheets, and consent forms that researchers want people with dementia to engage with, to be in clear, accessible language. The fifth principle about the research approaching work with people with dementia. This principle means that we are going to create some training resources for researchers. It is important for researchers to know that we are all different. This includes the fact that there are lots of different types of dementia and can affect people differently. And the sixth principle is about how people with dementia experience time and implications of this for dementia research. This principle means that researchers need to consider dementia time in their expectations of research, including finding out the best time to meet and how each individual keeps track of time. Researchers should always recap on previous conversations or interviews each time they meet with people with dementia. It is important that researchers find out from us and from people who we trust what is going on in their lives, especially if they are getting in touch after a gap in contact. It is important that researchers remind us the day before that they will be meeting with us, using the communication that we indicate is best and arrive at the time they said they would. Researchers should not stay for longer than agreed unless the person with dementia invites them. We have developed an application form based on the core principles. All researchers wanting to work with the Scottish Dementia Working Group will be asked to complete this form. We have also published the principles in an academic journal. We hope that the principles will be used to make sure that all people with dementia are involved in the research. Thank you.
next time I'm going to bring my own microphone, you know, the ones like in the talk shows. So I think we had wonderful speeches, very different parts, or let's say areas, referring to involving people with dementia. Of course, there are some more minutes left. I suggest 1 or 2 questions are possible. Just address the question and we'll see who is able to answer. You don't have to refer to a certain person. Just address the question and speak up, please, because I can't come to you with this microphone. Yes? Yes, please. Did you get this question? Usually the moderator, this is my function today, repeats in short sentences. The question was, is it possible that these core principles could be adopted by a kind of ethics committee? And of course, they are principles that are valid on the globe, not only in Scotland. Who would like to answer?
We've actually printed a number of these core principles here. So, yes, they are.
Can I just add to that as well? I think one of the advantages of the group developing these core principles in the way they have is that it develops another language, another set of priorities that can sit alongside. Often research ethics committees are governed by one set of frameworks that can make people think in one way, and often in a very risk-averse way or in a way that suits the priorities maybe of researchers more than the priorities of people that they're doing research with. And I think one of the advantages of a formal doctrine like this, particularly if it gets incorporated with those sorts of committees, is that it helps to change that unequal relationship to a more balanced one.
Thank you. One more question is possible. Yes, please.
I just wondered if there was any guidelines about somebody with dementia who has capacity and agrees to research, but then as the research progresses, loses capacity. What would be the process then?
I think best practice in research dictates that consent it can fluctuate throughout the course, and what we tend to encourage researchers to do is to make sure that consent is a conversation throughout a study, and that appropriate checks are made throughout. Yearly seems to work best.